Hello everyone, Friday 1 p.m. Today we have a special guest, uh, Göran, who is a teacher of the Feldenkraisa method. So Göran, could you please introduce us to the idea of the method itself?
Yes, I'll do my best. By the way, hello everybody. Everybody. Well, the method Feldenkrais it has got its name from its originator, a man that's called Moshe Feldenkrais. Was a Jewish guy born in Ukraine, and the method is it's a pedagogical method where we use movements or to learn more about ourselves. It sounds a little bit strange to talk about it in this way, but Moshe, he was a fighter, he was a scientist, he was a judo master, and he got problems with his body. He tried to visit different doctors, but no one could help him. So he figured out that his problem had to do with how he used himself. And then he has a background as a judo master, and he found out that he could organize himself in a way that his body worked better. And we, as you know, when you do things, you're not always aware of how you do things, what leg you are standing, or if I'm sitting on the right side of my pelvis or the left side, sometimes I forget. But if you slow down and do less, then it's easy to notice what you're doing. And the method helps you to be aware and also to change the way you're doing. Because to be able to change things, you need to notice things. And that's maybe the main thing of the method, to be aware, to find out what you're doing. And then if you're not satisfied with the way how you feel, now, then just change how you move, and that will change your thinking, your feelings, and so on. But we will do some movements later in the interview, and then you will get a better grip on what I mean.
Tell us more about Moshe because he was a nuclear scientist and he did
Yeah,
many other crazy things.
he did a lot of crazy things, so we could talk about that for hours, but see if I can do it in a couple of minutes. He was born 1904 in a small village somewhere between Kiev and white Belarus. And at the age of 13 or 14, it was in the middle of the First World War. He didn't like the situation in Ukraine, so he more or less went by foot to the north of Italy and there by boat to Palestine. He was a Jewish guy. In Palestine, he learned a lot of martial art. He was also a teacher in a way with young people that had problem with learning disabilities and such things. And in the 20s, he was a very good soccer goalkeeper in soccer, and he wounded his knee very badly. He was hardly able to walk for half a year, but he got better and better. He also get a scholarship on a university in Paris, where he studied, I think, physics and electronics. And after his exam, he got a job at the Marie Curie Institute, where he worked with nuclear science, as you said. Hitler came to Paris and had to get away from it, and came to UK, and there he was working with other scientists. But his problem with his knee got worse and worse, and so to be able to even manage to walk, he had to change things. And by the way, I forgot to tell him that he met the founder of judo in Paris when he lived there. So he was practicing judo almost every day for 5 or 6 years, and he was one of the first European that got black belt in judo. So the method comes from his knowledge in physics, electronics, engineering, judo, and also he was married to a a doctor who was specialist in child development. So that's also a really big part of the method. So it's a really scientific method. And he stayed in London or in UK until the beginning of the 50s. I think 1950 he moved back to Palestine, that at that time became Israel. And then after a while he stopped doing anything, his science, and he only worked with his method. And he died in 1984. At that time, he had taught quite a number of people in different parts of the world about his method. And I think for the moment, there must be maybe 20,000 Feldenkrais practitioners around in the world, or maybe more. But it's still not very well known.
So it sounds like he was a true Renaissance mindset guy.
Yeah, probably. And I think one thing, he was really a curious person. If there was something he didn't understand, no matter what it was, he just pulled it apart and put it together again and put it together in different ways. And that's also obvious if you do a Feldenkrais lesson, or if you do a couple of Feldenkrais, you notice that there are so many different ways of looking at human behavior. I know that you have tried it for some times, and it's I think there are maybe 10,000 different lessons. We call the exercise. You can call things exercise. We want to call it lessons because it's about learning.
Mm-hmm.
And
what
you can work with vision, you can work with breathing, you can work with sitting, running, and whatever you like. And the nice thing is also, Moshe, he said, I'm not after flexible bodies, but flexible minds. And most of us knows that if our body works well, we get happier. We like ourselves more, and it's also easier for us to be nice to other people. And he said that no matter what we do, there are thinking, sensations, feelings, and movements. And those four things, they are so closely connected. So if you change one of those four things, the other three will also change. And it's much easier to change how you move than to change how you think. So why don't do the easy way of changing yourself? Change how you move.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about you. How did your interest in the method begin? What did you do before?
Well, I started my working career as a building engineer. So I worked in an office making drawings and calculation on how big the walls and other things, so that the house wouldn't fall down when people went into it. So that I did for maybe 5-6 years. And in my spare time, I was a track and field coach. I taught young people how to run faster, how to jump higher and longer and such things. And then all of a sudden, I thought, I think I would like to work full time with people. So I decided to become a physical therapist. And I took my graduation as to be a physical therapist in 1982. And a couple of years after that, by coincidence, I came into the method, the Feldenkrais method, and then I was hooked. I couldn't stay away from it. And I've been doing Feldenkrais now for my living for more than 30 years. And I still find it very, very inspiring, and I learn things almost every day.
Hmm. So total career makeover from the construction engineer.
Yeah, but in a way, I think both my career as a physical therapist, where I know something about how the body are built and how diseases and such things. But also my curiosity as a building engineer, I know something about mechanics and such things. And I mean, in a way, you see the skeleton behind me. The skeleton is composed by many, many different things. And it's a little bit like a building. If it's not built properly or organized properly, it will be very difficult for this skeleton to stand upright and such things. So in a way, there's a lot of things that are good, that help me in my work as a Feldenkrais practitioner from my background as a building engineer. And I also spent a lot of time as a track and field coach, and is also a big thing that influences me, my work as a Feldenkrais practitioner.
So at the end, gravity is a crude bitch, as physicist says. So we collected some questions from our viewers a few weeks ago. So let's go through them. And we have also live questions, for example, from Robert. So first question, I will read it for you. Are there any differences in the level of concentration between working in front of the computer while standing and sitting?
Well, I think when it comes to level of concentration, I don't think we can tell for sure. But I think what you can tell is that it's not so much about the position. Of course, the position matters, because if you're lying on the floor, on your back or on your stomach, you don't need to work so hard with your muscles to keep balance because of the gravity, as you say, because we have a big foundation of support. And there's also a difference between sitting and standing, because in standing, we only have the support from our feet. In sitting, we have support from our feet and from our bottom. So we have 4 points. We have the 2 sit bones. I don't know what is the Polish for sit bones.
Guz kulszowy.
That sounds good. So we have our 2 feet. So we have 4 points of support when we sit, and only 2 when we stand. So probably the brain has to work a little bit harder to keep our balance when we are standing compared to when we are sitting. I think the level of concentration, the best thing would be to lie down on the floor, but it will, for example, many people that are listening to us are programmers and work with a computer. It will be difficult to lie down on the floor and work with the computer. So maybe, I think the big thing for the concentration is to be able to organize yourself in a way that you use as little power or as little brain power as possible to keep you upright. And I don't know if you could show me from the side.
Okay.
If I'm poorly organized, for example, I have a tendency to sit something like this. That happens now and then, if I'm not. And if you look at me now, I have to use a lot of my muscles here in the front. Otherwise, I will fall down. So the brain are occupied by sending a lot of signals to my front. And maybe you can hear also when I'm sitting here, my voice will be different. When I'm sitting here, my skeleton is organized so that the gravitational force goes through the skeleton down here on the chair and also a little bit down on the floor. So there's not so much surrounding noise that disturbs the brain. So the brain can concentrate on the work we have, whatever it is, if it's programming or writing or whatever it is. So I think the main thing to have brain power enough to do the work you're supposed to do, that you're paid for, is to be able to organize yourself so you don't get pain when you work, and that there's not, I mean, if I'm sitting like this, there's a lot of work going on just so that I don't fall down off the stool.
So how to organize yourself?
Yeah, that's the big question. How to organize yourself? And I think one thing is you have to get aware of how are you sitting. I mean, people are sometimes sitting like this, leaning on their armrest or something like that. But if that is my habit, I can't feel it. So I have to sort of maybe go away from the computer for a while so I can learn the brain how to notice things. In the beginning, it needs to be more or less quiet to be able to feel and sense what's happening. But let's do a little thing to try to organize the building our skeleton is. So you have your two hands, and maybe I should show my helper back here. We have, if you look at him, he's sitting. There's one of the biggest bones in the body. Maybe the biggest is the pelvic. And
Pelvis, czyli miednica.
what?
Miednica.
Aha. Okay. So if we see it from behind, there's actually three bones in the pelvis. There is the sacrum, and there is the pelvic bone on both sides. And here on the bottom, there's some bony things here that we call the sit bones. And the reason for their name is they're made for sitting. But we have another picture of someone sitting at the computer. Do you think you could show that? Yeah, you see this guy. He's sitting a little bit like I'm doing sometimes. He's sitting on the sacrum, not on his sit bones. So the pelvic are tipped a little bit backward. And it's a little bit like you saw me sitting from the side. And he's on his way to falling behind. And that means there's a lot of things going on in the front of him. You can take it away again. So it's a little bit like building a house. You have to have a foundation for the house. And the foundation should be organized in such a way that everything is on top of the foundation will be not falling down. So I think, are you interested in maybe see if we can find our foundation, the sit bones? And I think maybe you show me from the side instead, because then I can show it. Usually in Feldenkraisa, we don't show so much things because there's always a risk if I show something, you want to do it exactly as I do, and we are all different. But anyway, you can take your left hand and see if you lift a little bit your left side of your pelvis, and you can take your hand from behind under, and then you put weight on your hand. And now you feel maybe it's not so comfortable, but if you have a soft chair, not a wooden chair, stool like I have, I can tell you afterwards why I have this wooden chair and not a nice office chair. Now, if you can do a little bit like you round yourself, and then you extend yourself a little bit. And then you feel there's some hard stuff pushing into your left hand. Do you feel that?
Yes.
Then you do it slowly. And when you round yourself, the pressure gets a little bit smaller, because then you're more or less sitting on your back. You're almost lying down. And then if you go a little bit further, you feel that the pressure is more precise. And if you go even further, you can, with your long finger, maybe feel that there's also some bony parts. So do that a little bit back and forth so that you get to know your left sit bone. Because if we don't feel it, we have no idea what we're doing with it. And then you can lean forward and take out your hand. And usually if people do this for a couple of minutes and then they come back to sitting on their chair or wherever they're sitting, if it isn't too soft, they will feel a difference between the two sides. How about you?
It feels more rational, like using less force to organize myself.
Yeah. That's great. And probably it feels a little bit more clear also on that side compared to the other side. And
Yes.
you can just try now when you're sitting here. How would it be to lift your right buttock a little bit from the chair? Do that maybe twice. And then lift the left side. Is there a difference? Maybe, maybe not. If this is the first time you come in contact with the Feldenkrais method, it can be very hard to feel differences because we're not used to sensing. But I think maybe we do the same thing on the other side, so we can notice that side too. So you lean a bit forward, you take your right hand under, and maybe it's different. Maybe this sit bone sticks out a little bit more, maybe not. And you can round your back a little bit and just explore. See if you can find out, how is this? You can move a little bit to the side, a little bit to the other side. Maybe make a little bit a circle on your hand. And when you think this is enough, you don't want to have your hand there so long, you can take it out again. Usually it's enough with doing it for a minute or two. And usually when people do like this, they feel there's a difference in how I sit, how I sense my bottom. And I see that you are doing something with your head. That means that something happened with you too. So this is the first step to get to know yourself.
Oh, please explain what can you observe as an expert about my head?
Well, one thing is that I think, you mean what I observed from what about you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in some way, when you just took away the right hand and we are finished, you looked a little bit surprised because something happened. You could see something is going on. Your eyes are moving in a way that tells me that he got a little bit curious.
Okay.
And you look a little bit happier too. But I can't see the whole of you, so I can't see if you are sitting more upright or if you're sitting more slouch or whatever. But you can just, what you can do if you do it again, or people that are listening, what you can do is maybe in the beginning pay attention to where are you looking and such things. But we can do the experiment. If you just round your back a little bit and roll away from your sit bones, how do you feel now? And where are your eyes looking? And then you can roll so that you can feel your sit bones a little bit clearer. But I mean, this is, how long did we do it? 2-3 minutes. So we can't make wonders in such a short time. Miracles takes time, you know.
Mm-hmm. But the difference is about where I'm looking. It's very interesting because Andy Huberman mentioned about it. When you look down, you're going to be more sleepy. So it's the one trick how to maintain higher concentration.
Probably. I mean, and we don't know why we get more sleepy when we go down, look down. It could be because we have to work harder to sit in this position, or it could be other things. But you and I have talked about this thing Huberman says about concentration and such things. So, I mean, it comes back to the thing I talked about before. The better you're organized for whatever you are doing, the more energy you get. You don't need to work so hard. So then you can use the energy for things that are important, not to struggle with how you are sitting. But it's not easy. And you saw my stool. This is a cheap one I bought at IKEA for maybe 10 years ago, and that's my favorite sitting equipment when I work at my computer. And why do I want this hard surface? It's because I want the brain to get clear signals from my bottom. And if it's very soft, the brain get unsure about what's happening. And there's also one thing. If the thing you're sitting on is too comfortable, you won't notice when you're sitting in a strange way. Now, as soon as I go over to more pressure on one zipper, I get a signal to my brain, oh, this isn't so nice to sit here for long. So then I go and divide the pressure on both sides. So that's why, but I don't, you can sit on whatever you like. And then maybe it could be good to maybe have a couple of different things to sit on. Sometimes you need to lean back, and sometimes you don't need to lean back.
Okay, because I thought I need to get rid of my Herman Miller chair. We have
Well, I think you could have that too. You can go to IKEA and see if you can find something like this, so you can have it beside you, and then you change over now and then.
We have two
What about that?
questions from Robert. Are everyday stressful situations cause muscle tension and stiffness? And is Feldenkrais method can help to release those tensions?
A very good question. Let me see. I can answer it in different ways. Everyday, well, stress. Stress is something natural, and without stress, we wouldn't survive. Because stress is, for example, I get hungry. That's one sort of stress. And if I don't feel that, I wouldn't survive because I won't eat. So stress in itself, just sitting is stress because we get stress from the surroundings. The pressure on the stool is a stress. And muscle tension, that isn't anything bad. The problem is when we tense the same muscles all the time. It's then when we get into a problem. I mean, there's nothing wrong with tensed muscles. But if the muscles are tensed all the time, it's much worse if you can't tense if the muscles would be relaxed all the time. Then you wouldn't have been able to sit. You would fall down on the floor like an amoeba or something like that. And that would be even worse. But of course, habits and working in the same position for a long time is not good. I mean, modern workplaces are maybe not made for humans. And I think Feldenkrais can help you by making you more aware so that you notice now the tension is so big that I need to do something about it. Because if I don't notice it until I come home Friday evening, and then I have headache for the whole weekend. But if I'm getting more aware and I know that I need to do something, for example, I can, even if I'm talking to all of you, I can still move myself instead of just sitting, because muscles and the body are made for movement. And the thing that make us tense and stiff are that we don't move. And I can move so small that almost no one can see it. And that's, I think, Feldenkrais is really good for. I wonder if Robert is Robert okay with the answer?
Robert has a second question.
Yes.
What is the worst muscle to work with to bring back flexibility?
I don't know if I understand. What is the worst muscle to work with? Could you be a little bit clearer?
Maybe which muscle causes most problems?
Well, I think let me see if I can answer it like this. I don't think there's any specific muscles. It's muscles work together with each other, so it's more like a pattern. We have a pattern of maybe sitting like this, or sitting. If you show me from the side, I mean, some people are used to sitting like this, so this is a pattern, and then it's all our muscles, all our flexor muscles that are working. And then there are people that are told that you have to lift your breastbone, take your shoulders back, and pull in your chin. And this can also be a habit. And if I'm sitting like this, maybe you can try it, all of you. Just lift your chest, take your shoulders back, pull in your chin, and what happens? What would happen if you sit like this for half an hour? This is how you are sometimes instructed. This is good posture. But posture is a really crazy world, because how often are we absolutely still? Moshe Feldenkrais used to talk about, instead of posture, he used to talk about action, because we are all the time moving. And if we keep on moving and moving in different directions, then we won't get, then there won't be some part of us that are worn out until everything collapses.
Okay, we have two other questions from Marcin. What is your recommendation about sitting and standing? 1 hour standing and 1 hour sitting? And second question, why doesn't your chair have a backrest and a headrest?
Well, so the second question is that's because I move myself, and if I have a backrest or a headrest, I can't move myself freely. I can't move as free. But I have chairs with both armrest and backrest when I'm sitting in front of the television. You see there is a sofa behind there. I really like to sit in it, but if I sit too long in it, I get lower back pain. So and sometimes I don't notice it because it's so comfortable. So when I'm working, I don't want the chair, the thing I'm sitting, to be too comfortable, because then I don't notice when I've been sitting too long.
Mhm.
But I think you should find your own chair, your own stool, and maybe have a couple of different things to sit on. And to come to the first question about sitting and standing and electrical desks. I think electrical desks are really good, because then you can choose if you want to sit or if you want to stand. And there are advantages of both. And the biggest advantage is that you change how you are sitting, how you are standing. So that, and it could be good to maybe have 1 hour or half an hour and change every half hour and now and then. So, and I think I don't know so many programmers and IT workers, but those I know that sometimes you get so you are in a time rush, and you also get so inside the project, so it's difficult to stop. So maybe you need to have something on your computer that comes up on the screen. Now it's time to stand. Now it's time to sit, or just take a short break where you get up and maybe you turn around and then you sit again. Because if you take those short breaks early enough, then you don't need to make the break so long.
Okay, let's go to the next question. What is the best way to stimulate the body during short breaks during work?
Yeah, I think the best thing is probably, at least my experience is, if I do something that can relax my eyes, and concentrating some little bit on the breathing, because when we are stressed, we tend to diminish our breathing, we tend to stop our breathing. And also, if you're sitting watching a computer screen, you really work hard with your eyes. So I could just show you one little thing you could do with your eyes, and then later on maybe we do something more if there's time for that. Maybe we can show the picture of the eye.
Mhm.
So we have some anatomy and some understanding about. Can you
Could
find
you
it?
change the picture?
Yep. Right. So I have to do something also. I thought you were doing all the hard work. So here's a picture of the skull and the eye. What you see on the left side is the bony part of the nose. So, and you see the eye. The eye is more or less like a small, it has the size of a plum. There are some special plum, yellow plum that have the same size. So it's more or less like a ball. And there are, each eye have 7 muscles. One of them is the muscle that makes the pupil bigger and smaller. And then there are 6 muscles that move the eyes up and down and to the side and such on. And if you're sitting in front of a computer, you use your eyes. They are looking at the same distance all the time, and they also focus. So it means that the muscles that pulls the eyes closer to the nose are working harder than the other muscles. And that means that as the muscles are connected to the ball itself, it will pull in this glass body. And I think, I'm not sure, but if I understood what eye doctor says, that the form of the eyeball itself can change depending on how you use your muscles. If you pull on the inside of the eye, that would change the shape. So some problems with eyes, astigmatism, such things, can maybe be because you use your eyes in a habitual way. That maybe because before computers, we were hunters and collectors, and we were looking close, we were looking far away, and our eye muscles were all the time exercising. Now we just do one thing with them, and the same thing happen if I would sit all this lecture with my hand in front of me like this. How do you think I would feel after 1 hour? But we sit hours and hours looking at the screen where we have the same tension in the muscles all the time, more or less. So what we could do is move our eyes outside of the screen now and then. So you can for now just look over you or look around in the room. Look to the right, look to the left, and look far away with your eyes, look close. You can put one finger in front of you. Maybe don't look at the screen at the same time, and move the finger away from you and move it closer. Or you can have the finger in one position and just look away behind the finger. Then your finger will be a little bit out of focus, and then you can look at the finger. This is practicing, training for your eye muscles. You look at the finger and then you look at the wall behind the finger. And you can feel something happens inside your head. The muscles here has to work. So that's one thing you could do maybe now and then when you're sitting at the computer. That will relax your eyes. And if you do it, look away from the screen. Because the other things going on the screen has a certain frequency that not always is so good. And I'll show you one more thing about the eyes. You get that for free. There's something that we call palming, and you take your hands like this and put them, so you cross them a little bit around your nose so that no light can come in. And then you close your eyes. And you can lean back if you have a backrest, or you can lean on the table in front of you and just sit there for just a couple of 30 seconds, 1 minute, or something like that. And if you all have your hands cupped over your eyes, you're not pressing on the eyeballs or something like that, and you close your eyes, then you can notice how dark is it. And some of you maybe see different colors behind your eyelids. Sometimes it can look like a kaleidoscope of many different colors. And there's some eye doctors that told me that if it's totally black, then my eye, the nerve to the eye, or the yellow thing you see on the picture, it's relaxed. But if there are colors, especially if it goes to orange or red, that's a sign of that the nerve to the eye, from and to the eye, are a little bit stressed. Maybe there's some of the muscles are tense, or they press on the nerve, or we have been activating it too much. So that's also a checkup you can do. If you close your eyes and cup your hands over them, and it looks there's an orange or yellow, then it's maybe time to take a longer break, because then your eyes are stressed. Just a little tip. But maybe you can't take the rest because you have a deadline. So then, yeah, sorry.
What about combination with breathing?
Yeah, we can try. We can do. If you once again close your eyes and take your hands there and sit in it as comfortable as it is as possible. And now, when you're sitting here, just notice your breathing. Listen to your breathing. And you can sense how long is the intake of air, how long is the when you breathe out. Maybe you can notice if there is a pause between the inhale and outhale, or maybe there's a pause after you have been outhailing. So just concentrating on the breathing will change the breathing itself. But don't see if you can maybe support your arms, because the arms are heavy. So maybe lean on the desk in front of you. And you can just sit there for an hour, but that would be boring, but maybe a couple of minutes. And then you can very slowly come up to sitting upright, take away the hands, and then slowly open the eyes again. Of course, there are a lot of things you could do with your eyes, but today we don't have time enough to have things. A little thing happens just doing some small things for a couple of minutes, but to really have the brain to find new patterns and change things, it needs a little bit more time. Usually a Feldenkrais lesson takes between 30 and 45 minutes, because it takes that time for us to calm down and come into learning mood in a way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so next question is, what can we do every day to take better care of the body and it will not be a high engaging activity?
Well, I think maybe the most important thing is things we do outside of our work, that we eat good food, that we sleep enough, and also that what we can do during the day, during office days. That's a little bit what we just did, to take those short breaks, just for a second, look away from the screen, look out through a window, see, maybe just lift from your seat and walk around a little bit in the room. And doesn't need to be long breaks. Maybe it's enough 15-30 seconds if you do it before you get tired, because if you get very tired, then you have to rest more. It's the same if you go out for a marathon, you won't be recovered in 5 minutes afterwards. But if you only run for 1K, it doesn't take so long time to come back to where you were in the beginning. So take short breaks. I think that's very important. And then, of course, outside of work, as I said, eat properly, whatever that is for you, sleep well, and maybe engage in some sort of meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, or even Feldenkrais. if you can find a Feldenkrais teacher online or close to where you live, I think that will be the best. And that's not, you don't need to get sweaty. I think, of course, it's important with exercising, but for most people, it's maybe enough that maybe we can park the car 1 block away from our office, so we walk maybe, and we take the stairs instead of the elevator and such things. For most people, that would probably enough. Take a longer walk before you go to bed or something like that, instead of sitting at the TV until 15 minutes before you go to bed. Take a walk, half an hour's walk before you go to bed. The brain will sort of relax in a better way. We got away from the blue light from the screen and such things.
Mhm.
So I think you don't need to run 10K every day or go to the gym and do a lot of. If you like it, it's okay. Or if you want to swim, I think the most important, if you want to practice, work out, that is, you find something that you like and that are interesting. So what you do isn't so important, but at least the science says that it's good if you get a little bit warm, sweaty, a couple of times every week, maybe 20 minutes or something like that. But find something that you like. And if you start doing something that you've never done, be careful, and maybe you have to learn how to run or something like that. Because if you do too much the first time you go out for a run, then maybe it will take 3 months until you do it next time.
Yeah.
And I think in a way, that's a Feldenkrais way of thinking of things. Don't do more than that, so that it don't get uncomfortable. That's maybe one of the most important thing. If you want to do some physical work, don't do more than what is comfortable.
There is a nice Swedish word, lagom.
Yes, that's you've heard that. Yes, that means not too much, not too little, not too sweet, not too salt. It's just the right amount of whatever you are doing. The right amount, not for me, not for Slavik, but for you. That's also important. I mean, the biggest expert of you and your well-being, that must be you, not me. I don't live in your body, so you're the only one that can sense what your body need. But maybe I can help you so that you can learn what to notice to be able to take care of yourself in the best way possible.
We have last question. Does the position in front of the computer affect the quality of your work? Linear collapse of concentration, limitation of cognitive functions, and so on.
It was a big question. What we need, I think the short answer is yes. Of course, everything we do make impact on us. But I think I got this question in advance, so I'll see what I wrote a couple of days ago. But I think that the thing is that we are built for movement. We are not. There's no human being that are built to sit in front of a computer or in a shop at the register there for 8 hours a day. That's a fact. But that's how the world is constructed. So we have to, in some way, the changes that have happened in the world the last 50, 60 years is really big. And we have to adapt in some way. We can't throw away the computers. The world would collapse. But maybe we can sort of take care of ourselves better so that we don't collapse. And so we have to try to do the best possible out of this strange situation. And I think the way to do that is to learn to listen to your body, so that when the body tells you that now you have to take a break, now you have to change how you sit, that you notice it. And that's, of course, not very, very easy. Let's see, how long time was it? 25 years ago, I bought a new car, a French one. And that strange car, it could talk. It talked English. So every time you turned on the engine, it said, "Welcome. We are now checking security system for you." And if something was wrong, it told me what was wrong. It's the same with the body. The body also has its language of its own, but it's not so easy to understand. As the same thing is with my mother. At that, she's not alive anymore. But at that time, she took care of our car for a week. We were on holiday, and she didn't speak English. She only had gone 6 years in school, so only speaks Swedish and Danish. And the car all of a sudden said, "Warning," and said something. And she got scared, of course. She stopped the car and didn't dare to drive until she got in contact with my little sister. And she came 2 days later, and they started the car. And the car was telling her that there needed more water in the windscreen washer. But as she didn't understand what the car was saying, she didn't dare to use it. And it's the same with us. If we don't learn to understand what our body are telling us, we break it down. Or at least there is a risk that we break it down. So maybe this wasn't the answer to the question. But anyway, what I wanted to say is that you have to learn to take care of yourself. No one else will help you. And there are ways of learning that by doing maybe yoga, maybe Tai Chi, martial art, other things. But after working with Feldenkrais for 35 years, this is the best thing I've found to do it. It's not easy. It takes time. But as I said in the beginning, miracles can take some time.
Thank you very much. So finally, we want to offer you, I'm speaking to the participants, we want to offer you a free online workshop where you can try this method, Feldenkrais method. All you need is a mat on the floor, and link to the workshop will appear in the comment at the evening. Göran, could you tell 2 sentences about the workshop, the approach?
Well, say the question once more, Slavik, sorry.
So people will need just place on the floor and the mat. Should they prepare somehow?
Well, I mean, usually at Feldenkrais, we usually do most lessons we do lying on the floor. And the reason for that is pedagogical, because when you're lying on the floor, it's easier for you to notice what happens inside yourself. You notice the changes much easier than compared to when you're sitting, walking, standing, and such things. So that's the main reason. And what happens in a Feldenkrais lesson is that we start with, maybe we do a test movement so that we come back to in the end of the lesson, that sometimes not. And we will usually start with making a body scan. I will ask questions and make you notice how you're lying on the floor, which part of your body that has more contact. As we can do in sitting also. You can now notice if you're sitting as much on the right buttock as on the left buttock. And then we do a series of different variations of some movement. It could be how to lift your head when you're lying on the back, or it could be how to twist or turn over one of the sides. And after maybe 35 minutes, most people will notice that they are lying. For most people, in the end of a Feldenkrais, it feels like as if the floor has gotten softer. And then we go back to the test movement. The test movement can, for example, be how do I stand and lift one arm? How do I sit? Or something else. So, and what lesson we will teach, we haven't decided yet, because there are, I know, a couple of thousands lessons. So it could be good if you sign on, you can maybe write a few lines about yourself, if that would be, I don't know if that's possible, but we will find out one lesson that would suit most people. I have some favorites that usually works very well. That's a good answer, Slavik?
Perfect answer.
Good.
Thank you very much again. Więc jeszcze raz zapraszamy Was na spróbowanie metody Feldenkraisa, totalnie za darmo, w formie online, w formie godzinnych instrukcji na temat tego, na co zwrócić uwagę, gdy leżymy, jak możemy wypróbować inne wzorce ruchu, a Wasz mózg sam sobie wybierze to, co zużywa najmniej energii, czy najmniej boli, po to, żeby nauczyć się nowego schematu ruchu. Także wieczorem będzie publikować link do zapisów, nie trzeba będzie podawać żadnych oczywiście danych, wszystko jest za darmo i zapraszamy. So thank you very much again.
Thank you. See you later.